Kyle, and welcome to Data Lens, the short series where we talk about market research in the outdoor hospitality industry. Today, I'm here with Scott Barr, the president of Karen Consulting Group. With over 35 years of market research experience, Scott has a wealth of knowledge to share, and I'm here to ask him the questions that you want to know. So let's hop in. On today's episode, we'll be talking about understanding the experience economy and why data-driven experiences win. So Scott, hopping in. Any initial questions or comments here?
In travel tourism right now, experiences are what it's all about. That is what people are starting to realize that motivates travelers, and it is what travelers want. They want experiences. So it is absolutely topical and relevant to where we're at right now.
No, thank you for that input. And so actually, Scott, can you elaborate on that a little bit more? What is the experience economy and why does it matter for hospitality?
The experience economy is essentially the part of the traveler, I'll just say leisure travelers overall. What is driving their behavior, what is pushing them and pulling them to visit whether places and to stay at locations. So thus, the economy, the experience economy, is what dollars can you attribute to people who are seeking experiences, and what's your return on investment in terms of providing experiences, and what does that bring in terms of guests and their spend and their maybe staying extra days. So it's all what is surrounding the idea that people are traveling for experiences.
Awesome. Thank you for that input on that. So moving along here, how do customer expectations change in experience first markets?
It changes in that they're going to arrive and want something to do other than simply saying, here you go, here's our place, here's our campground or glamping park or RV park or hotel. Hotel industry in general has not really been focused on that too much, because what they provide are rooms. Here's your room, here's your stay. Typically it could be adjacent to a highway, or it could be maybe by something else. A resort, on the other hand, typically has something there. They tend to be a little bit more focused on the experience overall. In terms of expectations, especially in outdoor hospitality, the guest is going to show up and expect that you are going to provide something. Whether it's foraging or stargazing or bird watching or wildlife viewing or hiking, nature walks, plant identification, forest bathing, grounding, all these things. They're going to show up expecting that you have something like that there. That either you have it on site or you're adjacent to something. If you don't, there's a really good chance that's a one-time guest. They're not going to show up typically just to stay in your accommodation. That is what we're moving away from. That there's more to the experience. They want a richer experience. They want more depth to it other than simply an accommodation with the basics. So what's changing? And anyone who's not focusing on that is going to find themselves on the outside looking in. It's that important that you manage that and that you are upfront with your guests about what it is you provide in terms of experiences while someone is staying with you. It has to be at the forefront.
Definitely. And it seems like we see that throughout the entire industry, especially with the rise of glamping, wouldn't you say?
With glamping, to be quite blunt about it, a lot of people just put up accommodations initially and said, here you go. Here it is. And things are changing. And another part of the equation is the value proposition. If you're charging a premium for someone to stay in, I'm referring mostly to glamping right now, but if you want someone to perceive the value of their stay at your place, then you need to provide a little bit more than just the accommodation. It goes to those expectations, and you're out there, you're also competing against others. You're competing against let's face it, you might be competing against other short-term rentals. It could be an Airbnb where people can share expenses, and the Airbnb doesn't promise an experience. They just are promising you a place to stay. Again, if you don't have something else to offer, when that person makes that decision, when they're at that decision nexus, where are they going to be? They're looking for value in their stay. What's that value proposition that you offer that allows you to charge that premium?
Yeah, no, interesting. And even continuing on that topic of Airbnb, one thing I noticed the last time I used one, they actually have, when you get to say like your location, they actually have experiences baked into the application itself, like giving you ideas and suggestions. So it's almost like we can take that model and really make it into a lot of the different things that you do.
Absolutely. And I've heard anecdotally others mentioning that they've stayed at Airbnbs where you could plan out an entire stay, all your recreation, all your activities, just from that hub of the Airbnb, and the Airbnb operators are providing that information and that kind of service, almost like a concierge. And it's something to consider, again, because that is your competition, especially, people want to have the outdoor experience, but they're also thoughtful of what they're spending their money on. And so you really need to take that into consideration.
Definitely. And yeah, as I mentioned, maybe even using it as a model for yourself going forward on the tech side. Oh, yeah. So hopping into our next question here, Scott, what role does research play in designing better guest experiences?
Where research comes in is, one, we are able to predict fairly well what types of experiences people want when they show up, based on what type of accommodation they're staying in and who they are. So we can tell you with a fairly high degree of certainty that a certain type of guest is going to show up. They want a certain type of experience, but it also needs to dovetail with what you have. And that's also where research comes in, where we can evaluate what it is you have and what's achievable for you to provide in terms of experiences, and which ones are most meaningful. That's really a part of what the guest is seeking, is they want to have a meaningful experience. And thus it's important for you to understand who your guests are, which again comes from the research, and what types of experiences are most meaningful to them. Because if you could spend a lot of time and money offering some type of experience, but it may not fit your guest profile. So that's why it's so important. You attract a certain type of guest that's going to want to show up and do forest bathing versus the person that's going to show up and they want to go fly fishing, versus the person who might want to go mountain biking, or the person who wants to go foraging. Again, all these are different experiences. People want to visit small towns, and there are foodies out there. All these things play into equation of finding out what it is would be best for you to offer, what's most cost effective, what's the best ROI, and what's going to bring the people in.
And keeping with that train of thought on ROI, how can you measure the ROI of improving guest experience?
Essentially, what you're looking for there are, what does it cost you to provide that service? Obviously, that's number one. But two, whether you charge extra for it. Some people do, depends on the experience. For example, if you're transporting people to someplace offsite, you're providing gear, if you're providing enhancements with that service, then, are you charging for it? You at least want to offset your costs, but your ROI actually comes more in the longer term of the guests who will come back. They'll come back again, the guests who will tell others about your place, and those guests maybe add another night on to their stay. And the final one could be guests upgrading their accommodation while they're there. If they're having a good time and they're really enjoying it, maybe they want to upgrade to a different type of accommodation. And the other thing that happens is people will spend more money on site on things like food and whatever it is you're offering. If they're in a good mood about it, if they're enjoying themselves, they're willing to pay for that experience. And the final thing I would put on there for ROI is, as I mentioned earlier, you can increase your ADR. if you're offering some of these different types of experiences. Because again, people will pay for that. They hold value to the guest. And we've done some of that work. So we can tell you what the value is of offering something like that in terms of what it means to your bottom line.
Definitely. And then just real quick, so ADR is also average daily revenue, just for anyone who's new to the town.
Right. So it's what you're charging your guests to stay. So yeah, we shouldn't use acronyms so much, but yeah. So that way, you know what to charge. Anyone who's out there and looking at trying to figure it out what they should be charging, that's what it is. An example of that, when people look at amenities, a lot of times we're asked, should I put in a swimming pool? What we found is that if you add a swimming pool, you can look at all the costs and everything, but it allows you to charge, I don't know, I thought we came up with maybe an extra $20 per night per guest if they're staying in it's an RV site or a glamping site. The tent site is a little different. You can only charge maybe $10 extra. But that swimming pool alone carries a lot of cachet, because when people are looking at places to stay, even if they don't use the pool, I'm just using the swimming pool as an example, that the fact that you have a swimming pool to them adds to the value of their stay. And it's the same thing with all of these other experiences that we've been talking about. There's a perceived value with each one. They're not going to be the same as a swimming pool, but each one incrementally will add up to what you can charge your guests.
Oh, wow. That's absolutely huge. So do you have this report available, or do you have some more information you can elaborate on it? Because I think that a lot of people would find this super helpful.
Absolutely. To get the information, you would need to contact us. We don't, this is part of what we do, it's part of our services. And we would invite anyone to contact us to talk about this, because for one thing, it's a moving target, depending on the size of your park, the number of sites you have, the type of sites you have. Are you glamping, or are you a camping park? Are you a hybrid? And not to be all evasive here, but we have this. And we do have some information that's packaged up that we can send to people if they reach out to us. And we can give you some general ideas of which services and amenities offer the greatest value, especially when you're considering adding those on maybe, or including it as part of your upfront development.
Awesome. No, that's really exciting. And then, like I said, I think a lot of people would find that information extremely valuable. So
we think so. And that's why we offer that as a service to what we do.
Perfect. All right, Scott. And then wrapping up here with our last question of the day. So what specific data helps drive experience strategy?
Really, the data that you need to look at is your guest profile, from demographics to their behaviors and preferences. Where are they coming from? Again, age, family status, all these things impact. For example, if your park caters to a crowd of 55 plus, there's a good chance that you're probably not going to need a lot of kids activities unless they're traveling with their grandchildren. So again, things you need to know. And we know that there's a high percentage of people who do travel with their grandchildren, or at least have them visit. That's why it's a little bit more nuanced than simply saying, okay, most of our guests fit this profile, this is what we should do. Same thing with things like, if you're going to do foraging, who's interested in foraging? But you need to look at that profile. What's that type of person? People who are physically active. What do they want to do? Something super physically active while they're there? Maybe they want to go mountain biking or trail running or rock climbing, or the risk takers. That's the kind of stuff that you really need to take a look at, is who are your guests? And if you don't know, you need to start today figuring out who they are, because it's the most important thing you can do in terms of deciding what kind of experiences you're going to provide or provide access to. I think we should include that as providing access to experiences. It is also part of it. To have a partnership with someone maybe that is doing an expert, a guide that takes people fishing or foraging or stargazing, all these things. So, that all wraps up into that whole guest experience. Again, what you provide, but you have to know who your guests are. Just to use one final example, if you're an overnight park that caters to people who are just coming in for one night basically and then moving on, you're going to have a very different point of view on experience. You have tons of opportunity, by the way, but that isn't going to be the same as someone who caters to people who stay for a week at a time and who are immersed in the experience while staying there. So that's really what it comes down to, is what kind of park you have, what kind of guests do you have. Understand that from doing research and finding out who it is that's showing up at your park.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that insight, Scott. And as always, thank you all for joining us today for another episode of Data Lens from Care Consulting Group. Today, we covered understanding the experience economy and why data-driven experiences win. So don't forget to leave a comment or a question for next week's episode. Hit that like button if you like it. And as always, subscribe so you never miss out. Have a great day, everybody. Later.
Bye.